Episode 7 of the Tell It Like It Is Hip Hop News Reaction Podcast. Both Drake and Pusha T want all the smoke. Fiancés and baby mamas. Stay tuned. Welcome back to episode 7 of the Tell It Like It Is Hip Hop News Reaction Podcast. This is your host, SP the Artist, signing in. If you are not yet subscribed, please do so. Please remember to like and share and comment on the videos. That is how I serve you guys. I'm just a fan who creates contents and discussions for fans. Anyway, I want to talk about this week. It's been an exciting past few days. There's been more recent friction between Drake and Pusha T, and there has been an official rap battle that has begun between both of them. I believe most recently, Pusha dropped a 7-track album called Daytona, and on it he had a song called Infrared, and where he addresses issues with Drake. And Drake has responded with the Duppy freestyle in response to Pusha's. And I gotta say, I really was leaning more towards Drake after hearing the Duppy, but I went back and was listening to Pusha's Infrared a few times, and I like it. You know, I like it. So I kind of feel like at this point they're both in a good stance, right? So it's like they're both coming and they're not losing anything. You know what I'm saying? After the Duppy freestyle, Drake had kind of took a lot of the momentum of the battle of the beef, and he was the talk of the town for a good minute. He had some clever lines in it. I felt like he delivered some serious bars, in my opinion, in it. The whole writing thing means nothing to me, especially since I know he's written for himself and others. So not even, I have no bias when it comes to that. The only thing I look out for is if he has a really good ear as far as beats that he's choosing, lyrical flow, lyrical melody and content. That's it. That's the only thing. As long as he's using a good ear, that's all I'm concerned with. And being consistent, he has been doing that as far as Drake is concerned. Okay, Pusha T came back after the W freestyle and answered with a song called The Story of Adidon. It is a play on words. Allegedly, Drake has an Adidas deal coming up, and also has allegedly an estranged son that he will be opening up to the public about. And so Pusha T wanted to use this, I guess, as the Achilles heels of Drake in the battle, which I feel like is good strategy, right? In warfare, in rap battle warfare. And that's another thing I like to add. I felt like both of these guys are approaching this battle with keeping it within rap and healthy competition within the sport and sharpen both of their swords. Pardon me for my sinuses. I just simply didn't want it to be an excuse to not record for you guys. Anyway, so in Pusha's response, I gotta say, it's dope. He's going over a 4/4/4 beat, and I feel like it's fire. I feel like right now he has, one up. So I think it's 2-1 at this point. Like I said, I'm a fan of both. So I'm just going to judge based on how impactful, and how sticky I feel like both of or any of the tracks are. That's the only thing I'm going to report on this. But the more interesting thing I wanted to touch on is one of the lines that Drake had touched on in the W freestyle was a line referencing Pusha's fiance, and which is, of course, the disrespectful side of rap battles is historically known for rappers to get disrespectful in their own way. Ever since Kumo D and LL, um, I'm not sure if Kumo D went against Busy B. I'm not sure who that was. Of course, Jay-Z, Nas, of course, Big and Pac, of course, Nicki and Remy. So there's been a lot of disrespectful lines that's thrown around. So more recently, Drake with the line concerning Pusha T's fiance, mentioning her in a clever line, as usual. I like it because I felt like both of these guys are clever, in my opinion, and I want to get out the way before I jump into another point. And because I'm going to keep this real short, I just wanted to just give my take on it. But anyway, I feel like this is so good for hip hop, and not just good for hip hop. I feel like it's really good for both artists because I feel like it makes them sharper because Pusha T is obviously no slouch. And Drake has proven now that he's no slouch. And I think it's like it to Floyd Mayweather when people accused him that he was a good strategist, and good at really running and avoiding getting hit and not being able to stand in front of a person and maneuver well enough like a Muhammad Ali, and still get off and be effective. He was accused of that. And then Floyd at one point began to do that style, and he really did well at that style. He did get hit a little more, but he was very clever and he adapted. And, of course he eventually won those fights. So, I say that to say Drake is showing that he's willing to get in there with some of the lyrically, um, most lyrically fit, rappers in the game. So I think that's good for Drake. That was good for him. And in terms of Pusha, for taking the opportunity to go up against a pop, rapper. And when I say pop, I don't mean it slight or throwing any shade towards Drake. I feel like that's an accomplishment to, take rap beyond its boundaries anytime. And that we have a lot of pop rappers. I feel like Pusha definitely has the potential to do that at this point, to become a pop rapper, because he's always had the skill and the talent. I think at one point he may have done some pop numbers. I'm not sure. I think his affiliation with Pharrell, and others and a lot of hot rappers in the game has solidified him. And there's a lot of rappers, including Drake at one point, that was fans of him, that idolized his wordplay, and him as a wordsmith in hip hop. So, anyway, I feel like I said, that sharpens Drake, which is excellent. And it shows him in a new competitive light, which is really good for the sport of hip hop. And I feel like even with the Meek and Drake situation, it stayed in the studios and not in the streets. And that's what I felt like it was not only entertaining, but effective, for doing that. To not only be historic, not only to be highly entertaining, but, it just kept it in the street, and it wasn't two black men having to die behind some BS or whatever. I feel like, they're taking this approach, Pusha T and Drake are, in terms of, keeping it in the studio. So that's another plus for hip hop. And then another thing that really is really good for Pusha T is, for all of the fans that has been a fan of his wordplay and always wanted to hear more and hear him flowing over, hot beats, this gives them the opportunity to hear more consistent, Pusha, within this beef. And I believe that once he sees his imprint that he's going to leave in the streaming, industry, I believe that he is going to continue with a pattern of, consistency. I think that any artist has to put out some really, really great catalogs and really know how to move around like a 50. And like I said, like a Pusha, I feel like Pusha has been very effective with keeping himself connected with all things hot over the years, even though he didn't have to put out a lot of consistent music. But I think the same was with A$AP Rocky, because these guys are like the cool fashion guys with the cool wordplay. People just simply want to hear more. So they may complain about consistency. But I think that they are Sade, potential level high, both of them, both A$AP and Pusha. But focusing on Pusha, I feel like this consistency could help solidify him in a space where he then can start rolling out like a Sade. I think that as I'm learning now, as far as like top of the mind, being omnipresent, being so available and almost seeming to be everywhere as an artist, as a creative, as a business person, whoever, is just always the best approach. And I'm learning that now just based on how human psychology works and how the human brain perceives things. So I think the consistency for Pusha is really going to be good for his career, moving forward. I think he's always been a witty, strategist and wordsmith, and I feel like he has a really good ear in terms of beats. I feel like he has a lot of style. I feel like Drake has proved, because I think they tried to kind of label him as a talented square or talented corny guy or whatever, but I felt like he showed that he had some flair, and he has shown some style in his fashion taste lately. So you got to give that to Drake. Drake has definitely stepped that up. I think Drake was just himself and comfortable and just had a neat persona, but he was just nasty with the lyrics, and he has a really good ear when it comes to melody and rhythm and flow. And I think those are his strengths. And I think the irony from him being, and I'm not, because first off, Canadian is no different from America in terms of culture. It's just it's a mix of culture and different things. And I do feel like they have really cool culture there, and they do have hardcore, backgrounds and different things that inspire a more textured culture, a more fruitful culture. So I know they're no different from us. So I'm not saying, but because he's Canadian and because he is from the suburbs, for me, the whole biracial thing never mattered. I never took issue. That's just human beings. I think that's just the gift of duality. We're alike, but we're different in a lot of ways as human beings. I think the gift of duality, we're blessed on so many levels, and you'll hear me touch on that in future episodes and wherever you hear me. But anyway, I feel like the gift of duality is what makes us just more interesting. And I feel like we should embrace the fact that we have differences. It makes us unique. Just imagine if we were all the same, and you're going to keep hearing me say that. So the whole biracial thing, it's not a problem for me. So even if someone try to use that as a jab, I feel like Drake seems like he's a guy that continues to allow himself to evolve. It appears that way. Of course, I don't know the man or anything like that. So I think that he may, even if he has had an issue with that, I think he's probably moved past that. And I think that's what gives Drake his edge. I think he does accept that he can be emotional at times. But he adapts to situations and accepts them for what they are, and he plans and moves ahead. So I think that that's what gives him edge and allows him to be so prolific. He simply has a good ear. Sometimes he may have hits, sometimes he may not, but he's not slowed down if something doesn't hit as well. And that's why I respect, no matter what happens, he focuses on making great art. And I think a lot of artists that do that, Futures, the Young Thugs and all that, they was trying to label Young Thug with some problems. Not to digress, but I feel like this is relative. They tried to label him as, his sales is not as important. He may be good at flipping money or keeping money or growing his money, but in terms of the numbers he was doing, it was questionable at times how supportive his fan base was. And I think he put a lot of that to rest by just simply continuously making great art. I certainly respect Young Thug as an artist. Like I said, not to digress, but I feel like in terms of the Drakes, I feel like Pusha is in that. The Futures, because they're so prolific and they can create so quickly. I feel like Migos are the same. They have the same energy as well. I feel like a lot of artists do. They're doing it now. Consistently, I feel like Kodak Black has that. Well, anyway, back to as far as Drake is concerned, I just wanted to get the biracial thing out of there. I feel like him being probably, I don't know, I think he may have been from the suburbs, I'm not sure, middle class area or whatever. May not have been a tough neighborhood that he grew up in, right? Or he just had a more diverse background. I don't think that takes away from him, but I feel like because he has such a good ear, such a good flow, such a good understanding at wordplay in hip hop and just music, sonically. I feel like that's what gives him an edge over most people. And I think that he sets aside ego, even though a lot of people feel like he operates off ego a lot. And I don't know that he doesn't, but I feel like he sets it aside to really understand what works and what resonates. And he listens for that. And I think that makes him very intuitive, and it just gives him a competitive advantage, in my opinion. I feel like Pusha is also adaptive. I feel like he's growing. I feel like he keeps himself in touch with what's going on in the youth. And I look at it like this in terms of that. I'm an older guy, right? I'm a grandfather or whatever. And I'm still a lover of hip hop, right? But the way I look at it is we all were young. That's a part of our psychology, a part of our makeup. Pardon me, our neural network, makeup. That's a part of that. The young part of us, the teenage part of us. And there's nothing wrong with that and being able to relate to that, because there's really a lot not new under the sun, right? There's really nothing new under the sun. Okay. It's just newer versions of the same thing. The same, only different. You'll hear me talk about that a lot, in microcosms and all of that, and extrapolating value from things because of that principle of the same, only different, as I refer to it. And I had learned that from reading a book, called, Save the Cat. I apologize for not having the author's name at the top of my head. I'm going to recall it maybe in a later episode if it doesn't come back to me as I'm recording this now. But anyway, I want to get back to the core of what I say and kind of get into the next segment of this piece. I feel like it sharpens both of them. We're going to get more consistent music from Pusha, which is good for the culture. It's going to sharpen Drake, his blade or whatever, and it's going to be interesting. Now, in terms of the situation with, as it relates to relationships, I feel as though when Drake mentioned the fiance, and I'm sorry guys if I've gone on any tangents or whatever, I'm pulling it back together. I feel like that opened up a can of worms, and of course, Pusha explicitly said that because he made that reference to his fiance, that there was no holds barred and whatever was going to be on the table. And of course, in the story of Adidon, he had assaulted Drake's mom, his dad, and his producer friend 40, and even taunted his illness, which of course we know is a jest. We know the man doesn't personally wish anything on him, but in the rules of talking dirty and talking smack, even in whether it's real, hip hop battles, or you snapping on somebody in school or in your house, it's no different from that. You don't wish the person harm or want to really disrespect them, their mom, but you're just using jokes. And it's the idea of that you're not being disrespectful. It allows you the creative space to be as disrespectful. Ironically, that's how it works. And no one takes it personal because it's a jest. And I would assume that that's how, the competitors in a rap battle looks at it the same way. So, anyway, Pusha had, fight back. And then he touched on Drake, being an alleged estranged father and having a love child or whatever with a young lady who may have, in some people's eyes, a shady past. And I want to say as a disclaimer, I, have had with someone people will call a shady past. I've been with a lot of women and all of this, high numbers and all of that. And I don't say that, and pardon me again, to say that I'm proud of that or anything like that. It's just that I was able to learn and grow and mature from that and understand that that was an unhealthy lifestyle for me at that point, the way I was living. So I certainly wouldn't judge anybody for how they are and what their background is. And also I've shared nude art of myself, for free. I'm not an adult star, as a disclaimer. I'm just an expressive artist, and I'm not ashamed of my male sexuality, my heterosexuality. I'm not ashamed of it and expressing myself with women. And that's it, But so I'm certainly not going to judge the woman, but it was just, said that she had a shady past and may have had some risque photographs or things like that or videos of herself. Nothing X-rated, but just, some solo stuff that may have been, considered risque, right? Or not safe for work, right? And Drake was alleged to have a son with her, is alleged to have a son with her. And he was alleged in a jab in the song by Pusha T, the response to the Duppy freestyle, that Drake had fathered a child with her, was kind of hiding it, that Drake was kind of ashamed with her and had come to terms with it and was now having his team try to clean her image up because he was going to present her as his son's mom. Allegedly. This was alleged. It's entertaining now. I gotta give it to him. As far as like low blows or whatever, it was good. Because Drake almost kind of seemed spotless. And I think that's why this kind of shocked people. It seemed like when Drake would go through these battles, people would have a lot on Drake. It seemed like Drake used Eminem's, strategy in terms of, telling your own truth, spilling your own tea, spilling the beans on yourself, using that strategy, which I think is wise, is transparent, and it doesn't allow someone to kind of put you out there, put you under the bus. You're just showing, hey, I'm not perfect. This is where I went wrong. Boom, boom, boom. So, I felt like Drake uses that. So that's why people didn't really have really much on him, but this was something new. Now, maybe as Pusha found this out, I don't know how long he known this alleged information, or if it in fact is true. If it is, we're about to see. Drake will let us know. Anyway, it was clever, and I don't think that it damages anything that Drake is going to roll out. Now, I do want to mention the whole blackface thing. Now, it's alleged that was a part of a short film that Drake was in. And of course, we know Drake's sentiment or the creators of it may not have been to offend or whatever, but just, dealing with reality. I think they even had blackface characters in the Spike Lee Bamboozled film, if I'm not mistaken, just to show that, just to educate people on, I guess, the negative effects of that sort of imagery, that mindset or portrayal of blacks in entertainment or whatever in society in general. So I don't think that it was a negative way, but I think it was used as something that was shocking. And I think for Drake, and this is my opinion on it, like I said, I don't know these people. I'm not connected to the entertainment industry. I'm just a fan. But I feel as though Drake will be able to use that. He's smart, and trust me, it's a lot of people who understand this. They'll hear something, and like I said, I call it OI, right? If OI ain't in it, you can't win it. Okay, observe, right? Accept, adapt. That's it. I feel like Drake will do that and build off of that. He will come with a transparent way to rap it that he will still let you know that it doesn't take away from what he has built and what he's now building. I think that he's always going to take that stance. And as long as he takes that stance and it goes off well sonically, it has some sticky lines in it, because with my understanding, from what I understand, I cannot remember the artist who said this. They said that, that a hook is not necessarily the chorus, it's any part that's sticky in the song that's memorable. And, I want to sign out as some disturbances happening in the background. I apologize, but I wanted to just touch on that. And this is SP the Artist signing out.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.